I always say the most important people are in the room. So give yourself a round of applause, please. No, we can be louder than that. Thank you, that was for me. We'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today is traditional lands, and we respect our elders. Also like to acknowledge the elders that we care for. We're all here today for a purpose. It is the Hotel Services Management Solutions Innovation and Changes Forum for Aged Care Hospitality Services, and it's a Tasting Australia event. It's very exciting. My name is Charlie Robinson. Most of you don't know me, some of you do. It's exciting to all see colleagues in the room and also friends, so welcome. I've been in the aged care industry for a little while now. I'm on the board of Rembrandt Living, and we've got some lovely Rembrandt Living people here today. I'm a writer and editor for the aged care industry, Aged Editor magazine, which I'm shamelessly promoting on the back of my notes. Thanks, guys. My journey into aged care started because of my mother. She now lives with Anglicare down at Grange. And one of the things that she said to me only yesterday was, we're actually now starting to get some decent meals. And they're making my day feel a lot better. Like I'm feeling happier about stuff just because I'm getting some good meals. So it's really an important topic that we look at aged care, what it's been doing, where it's been going, where it's come from, some challenges that we all face every single day, and also some innovations. So I really applaud you for being here in the room. Thank you for your attendance. The man behind all of this is Alice Wilkinson, who I will introduce shortly. Some housekeeping items that we need. Every NC provides you with. Toilets are downstairs and to the right, so if you need to make your way there, please do quietly, and we're all adults, I'm sure you can work that one out. We have had some car parking issues, so I will allow a little bit longer in the breaks if you need to go out and move your cars, because I would hate for you to miss any of the event. As we mentioned in the event promotion, we are filming today, and we have this lovely little gadget here, which is doing a 360 filming of it, and it started a while ago. So yes, we have actually filmed you all sitting down in your seats. Those in the front row, you're very brave, but I do applaud you, and that's fantastic. We also have an over-the-top or counter camera pointing, and it will come out on this screen, so those of you on this side of the room actually have quite a good view of when the chefs do their demonstrations. I ask that your mobile phones go into silent. However, we don't discourage you, we encourage you to use them, and to try the hashtags of the day, which is Tasting Australia, of course. Aged care is another one, and one for today, which would be HSMS Forum, which is Hotel Services Management Solutions Forum, with a hashtag in front of it. So if you use any of those, then later on we can pick them up and see what you've said, and some of your inspiring comments and quotes we could actually use from today. Great. If you have any additional feedback, I personally welcome those contributions for any editorial articles that we write after this. So anything that you've learned, fun facts, tips, been inspired by, etc., please do communicate with me or Alice and let us know, because it's always good to go forward and share with other colleagues and people in the industry as we go. What we're going to do today is start off with a cooking demonstration by Peter Morgan-Jones, and then we are going to have a short break. Then we'll have a panel discussion, and that's with an exciting lineup of people for that for you, and then we'll have another cooking demonstration from Yiddish. We'll have a little bit of a discussion around Peter Morgan-Jones' new book. If you've heard of him before, he's done that one where it was about the egg and the 18-minute timer. And who's heard of that one? Peter's book. Yeah, there's a few hands going up. That's good. I might just do a little fun fact for everyone. Who is actually from the aged care industry in the audience? Who works in aged care now? So that's 85-90% of you. Who's a chef? Oh, that's 70% of you. That's fantastic. Awesome. Good work. Okay. So, what was Alice? Alice is sometimes a chef. Well, anyway, without further ado, what I'm going to do is now introduce you to Ellis Wilkinson. He is the Director of Hotel Services Management Solutions. It has to have been the longest event name and company name in the history of mankind. It's been a bit of a tongue twister. So there is water and a drink at the bar apparently if you would like to go and get one at any point. And I challenge anybody to say that full string of words through a glass of champagne. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, it's a long name. Send me to the book. Gets people talking. A bit like my logo, really. People may comment about that. So, thanks everybody for coming today. This has been a bit of a journey for me, excuse me, for 5 or so years since I worked in a catering company and realised the people in aged care weren't necessarily getting what I thought they should be getting, which was choice. So I realised that we needed to start to change the perception of food services in aged care and the choice that we're giving the residents in aged care. So it started for me putting a working group together with myself, Simon Bryant and Trevor Cook. We decided that in a cafe in Bronson that we would try and raise the profile of chefs in aged care. We would also look at education, how we could educate aged care providers to see food services as true value add for an aged care provider, because that's what we believe. We believe food services is not just an essential service for aged care, but it could be a true value add for aged care. Also, we realised that there's nothing on the national curriculum that supports chefs and cooks coming into aged care. So that's something I've been working on for about 5 years. And I'm now at a federal level with that. And it looks like we're going to get the opportunity to have an aged care specific curriculum put up, which will be a game changer for chefs and cooks wanting to come into aged care. So they can actually have the skills and the knowledge before they come in, rather than being a chef or a cook from a cafe, a restaurant, or a pub, and then just coming straight into aged care. It's going to be a bit of a shock for chefs and cooks. And certainly the fact that there's quite a lot of risk associated with food services in aged care. I think we need to give chefs and cooks skills prior to them coming into aged care. So that's a couple of things I've been working on for the past 5 years. So this event is in it. It's our 4th year, which is only testament to Simon Bryant supporting aged care in South Australia and nationally, and the fact that we have an opportunity to put on an event at I guess now it's a global festival. It's pretty special. So when Simon gets here, we'll thank him for letting us be part of this event. So one thing that I was conscious of with these type of events is we can stand here talking about things that need to change, but really it's all we're doing today is sowing the seed, and I've deliberately made sure we've got some follow-up events that are going to give you people in aged care generally, the skills, I guess, and knowledge from some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. I'll make point of one thing we're going to be, one particular part of aged care cookery, I believe we need to change the language, which is the texture modified food component of a menu. I believe we need to start looking at this from a molecular gastronomy perspective. One of the main reasons is because that's exactly what it is, but also we really need to try and have aged care hospitality as an attractive career path for young chefs and young cooks looking for work. And we're in hospitality and aged care. We're just the same as any other hospitality business. We're struggling to find chefs and cooks. So I think if we, one, have events like this and raise the profile of aged care cookery, but also have molecular gastronomy and that type of cookery going on, we'll attract young chefs and cooks to our industry. So the workshops that I spoke about, ASIA, or Aged Care Industry Australia, Association, yeah. I'll do one follow-up event, and that's with Dr. Alison Yaxley, who's on the discussion panel, and that will be focusing on your food service system, maximising the system to improve outcomes. That should be in the pack that was on your seats. The other event, and you can register for that event by emailing inquiry@asia.org. ASA, sorry, yeah. Yeah, it's in your pack anyway, sorry. So Dr. Alison Yaxley will be doing one event there, and that is going to be on the 24th of May. Then Letitia is going to be doing another follow-up event with the IAAC at one of their breakfasts, and that is on the 19th of June at Glenelg Golf Club. And again, that's in the pack that was on your chair. So, and Vicky's event is going to be focused on molecular gastronomy. So that's pretty much it for me, apart from thanking a few people. Obviously, today was a free event, so that was sponsored. I don't know if you've noticed who might have been sponsoring it, but PFD Food Services have been sponsored, were the major sponsor for this event, but also CCI Group Purchasing, who I'm the general manager of, as well as obviously doing Hotel Services Management Solutions, small name. And obviously I'd like to acknowledge certainly Vic has been integral to assisting this event to be put on financially and supplying the food. Also, that's right. That's right. Thank you. So Charlie Hiller-Robinson for MCing and doing the marketing for the event, he's one of the people that have gone above and beyond. And it wouldn't be the same without Charlie helping. This is the first event that I put on, so Charlie's been helping me behind the scenes, which has been awesome. Also, Simon's not here, but obviously I'd like to acknowledge Simon. Without him supporting this event and letting us put on an aged care hospitality event, we wouldn't be raising the profile of our industry. So we'll thank Simon when he gets here. Also the panel members, they're all really busy people, and it's excellent we've got the people that we have on the panel, and Charlie will introduce those later, but really a big thank you to them. The chefs behind the scenes, particularly Peter from Life Care, he's been a good support of this event. Should clap the chef. Thanks, Peter. And All Pro Audio have just gone above and beyond. So if you've got an event and you need AV, they're the guys to get on board. They're fantastic. They've really stepped up and helped us today, because, like I said, this was a free event, so it was all sponsored, and sponsorship money only goes a certain way, and they were very, very helpful. And Annie is here as well from Maggie Beers Foundation. Annie's going to help us today as well, so thank you, Annie. And lastly, obviously, you people that have turned up and taken the time out of your day to come and have a look at our event. Thank you very much for turning up. I appreciate it. Thank you. Right, so just quickly, I'm going to hand the mic to Vic from PFD Foods because he needs to say something. He spent the money. You better get some right time.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello to everybody. First, I just want to say thanks for the turnout. When I left home this morning, my wife said, Dick, you know that function that you're sponsoring today, that's sold out. And she was really excited that we'd sold out this function, but I dare not tell her it was a free event. And that's our little secret. But the thing is, when we came here at about 11:30 with Alice and everything was empty, so it's really pleasing and encouraging to see the numbers grow slowly. And there's a time when we thought, hope everybody comes. It was a sold out event. So as I look over, I see a group of people, not many spare chairs, and what it tells me is that we're all committed to the one cause, which is improving the quality and the offering in aged care. And from PFD and my colleagues down the back, Leanne and Sandy, we're very committed to it. And well, I've been around 25 years. It's not just a question now of picking a box, putting it in a truck and delivering it. Everything is far different to what it used to be. It's all about upskilling our people, and the girls at the back, along with the rest of our reps and account managers, are experts in their field. Even in the case of the sensitivities in doing a drop at a nursing home, we know that no one wants a truck running for hours on end executing the drop. So we're very sensitive to everyone's requirements. And, we've just our presence in the field has increased over the years and it's continuing to increase, so hopefully we're doing something right. But again, I want to thank everyone for coming here today. Ellis in particular, where are you? Mate? Ellis? Yes. Special thanks to you, mate. This idea started very small and we watched it grow to what it is today. Ellis? Ellis? Please. And I just want to acknowledge your efforts, because I've seen it firsthand all the time and effort that you've put in along with myself, and I think that's fantastic, so special thanks to you. The quiet achiever. Alright, so thanks everyone. I think we've got an exciting afternoon. Special thanks to Peter Morgan-Jones and for Tish. Two very exciting presentations coming up, so I'll leave you in their good hands, and again, I really appreciate the turnout. Thanks very much.
Yeah, we'll just acknowledge and we'll clarify one thing, that it's a free event, but it's taken up your whole afternoon, so your aged care facilities are actually paying for your time. And that's a big thing in aged care. I know, having worked in the industry for a long time, it's really hard to get you out and to actually get you trained and for that sort of time off, because you're all working so hard. So we really do appreciate you taking the time and coming. And it was sold out, and we had to open up more tickets. So we have done very, very well considering. Without further ado, I just want to make sure that you understand we do want to get practical outcomes from today. Be vocal. Please ask as many questions as you want. This is your event. Whether it's free or not, you have to learn and be inspired by today. We hope that what we're putting on the table and dishing up, boom boom, does actually give you, what you need. So ask the questions. If we're not covering a topic, or you're not hearing something that you wanted to hear about, please ask and please shout out. The focus today is to create a sustainable future for the industry. And so this event and future events, which Ellis has alluded to, the workshops that we encourage you to book in for, will showcase molecular gastronomy and nutritional health being closely related to a person's overall health. So without further ado, Peter Morgan-Jones is our first demonstration chef that we've got up at the stage. You can see directly in front or use the screen just here. If you can't see, please come up around the edges or whatever. The demonstration will go for about 30 to 40 minutes, so make sure that you're not just sitting there, and if you can't see it, make sure you get into a position where you can. So Peter has actually cooked for the British royal family alongside some of Australia's best known chefs. He's now Hammond Care's executive chef and food ambassador. He began working with Hammond Care back in 2012 after 5 years as head chef at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. So going from a portrait on the wall to a portrait in front of him, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, he writes books now. Peter embraces the opportunity to bring to the aged care sector his vast restaurant experience along with his love for I can't even say the word, unadulterated. Try saying that after a champagne. Foods where the flavours do the talking through fresh, seasonal and sustainable produce and innovation in modified meals. Does anyone remember the book, Don't Give Me Eggs That Bounce? I alluded to it before. It's got 118 cracking recipes for people with Alzheimer's. The other book that he is going to talk about today is the one specifically targeting cooking for those that are being palliated, so a palliative care focused book. Without any, I'm going to shut up now and I'm going to hand it over to Peter. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello everyone. Well, the first two books were dementia specific, and the new book is dementia specific too, but it's more broad, and obviously it's for palliative care. So it's going to be launched on the 21st of May in Palliative Care Week, and that's when we're actually going to release the book. So this afternoon they're going to do live tweets in the media and the press so I'm launching the name of the book today, so it's very exciting to be able to share that with you. So there was a few things from the book, the new book, that I want to share with you. They're quite easy to do, and the recipes in both of the other books, they're just being picked up a little bit for the third book. So I'm going to start off with this one. A lot of people who are on a PEG or have difficulty swallowing, and they don't get that flavour sensation, or they don't have basal stimulation. It's really important to think of those people too, and how we can how can they experience a good dining experience. So this has been obviously around for a long time with molecular gastronomy. It's like making molecular air. So all that was is prepared it. I'll turn this on. This is a coffee. That's actually like a fish pump, and I'll just leave that going now. So what happens eventually, that'll all froth up, and then you scoop off the froth, and you can put it on somebody's tongue, and you get that smell. You can smell the coffee. You know, you taste it. You can put sugar. You know, however they like the coffee, but it actually dissolves on the tongue, but is nil by mouth, so you don't actually swallow it. So there's lots of I suppose little things you can do on a one-on-one basis for somebody who's can't swallow is on a peg. So we can do that with alcohol too, so they can do it with beers and wines or gin and tonics. You can have like a foam. So I'll just leave that going, so just in case you think what that is. So one of the other recipes was it's a classic French recipe, which is a mousseline. So all we've got is I'm going to make a sausage. So I've got a sausage maker, but actually we used to do this at MG Garage, which is in Sydney. It's a three-hat restaurant. We used to charge $40 for a salmon sausage, same recipe, and it's so cheap. So all this is, it's like a nozzle for making sausages and a piping bag and a little bit of tape, and then you just thread the sausage skins on the end there. So that's pretty much what you need there. And in here you've got it's equal quantities of cream and protein. So this one I've got whitefish, I've got snapper, smoked salmon and prawns. So I'll just put this in here. I've actually made some of these, so as I'm talking, there will be some coming around so you can actually taste the finished product. So then you just blend this until it's smooth puree. I'll put some more in. Can you all see? Sure. And then it's equal amount of cream. So I've got 120 mils of cream in there as well. And then I've got a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and a pinch of nutmeg. So that all gets blended up. And then you add dill as well to that. At this stage too, if you're concerned that it might be lumpy, you can actually pass this through like a muley, or you can pass it through a sieve. Just got a few more lumps. Okay. So what we're serving with this, we're actually serving a cauliflower puree. So it basically it's like one head of cauliflower, 3 or 4 Desiree potatoes peeled, chopped up. You cook those and you serve that with, there's a little picture of nutmeg in that as well. There's white pepper and salt and butter. And then what you do is when it's all cooked, you actually pass that through a muley too. So it turns into, it's like a creamy cauliflower mash. That recipe's in the new book as well. And I'm serving that with a pea foam. So all that is in the new book. I've got there's a recipe for pea and mint soup, which is really nice. You can have that chilled or hot. And I'm using 300 mils of that. So you have to pass that when you're using one of these foam wicking guns. Has anyone ever used these before? Yeah, if you've got any lumps in there, it clogs it and it usually blows up in your face, or it creates a complete mess and you ruin it. So you've got to pass it through really, and I know this, I've done it live on TV, on sunrise and it went pear-shaped. So you've got to be very careful, there's no little sediments and bits in there. So then when you pass that, so you use 300 mils, and then there's this, it really lost in translation from Germany to English, it's called Spuma Gastro. So you don't get food poisoning or the runs when you use it, but it's actually a thickener that you can get from, I think there's a company in Sydney called Prestige Products stock it, and I think there's a few other companies that stock it. Basically all it is, it's a thickening agent, it's xanthan gum and maltodextrin. The maltodextrin combines fat molecules. I think Vitesh will be able to explain that better, he's got the science behind it better than me. So in here now, so with that, I've just put 8 scoops of that in there and I whisk that up. So that turns into a foam, and you charge it with nitrous oxide. I actually got busted in Sydney Airport. I was sitting in the Qantas lounge and there was a thing, paging Mr. Morgan James, could you come to the reception desk? And I went there and they said, excuse me, we have to take you down to the basement of Sydney Airport because they found some dangerous goods in your bag, and it was I had 20 of these green whipping bolts, which is nitrous oxide, in my bag, so they confiscated them. And then I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm not going to get any here. So I messaged Alice and said, can you bring some? And when I opened my suitcase, I had 10 more in there that I'd forgotten, so they missed them anyway. So with that, so once you've got that, then all you do is you actually fold, you whisk an egg white. So this is like a classical French Mussolini recipe. So I know this is lumpy, but I haven't got much time, so I have the ones we're serving are actually nice and smooth. So then all you do with that, with the egg white, you're actually mixing this in. And I always use a stainless steel spoon with this, just to mix it in. And then lo and behold, here's one I prepared a little earlier. So this is the like the finished mix. So this we just you put this in here now and you scoop. Are they coming out? Look at those. So these are synthetic skins, so they're suitable for people who don't eat pork. But I actually like the real deal, like the skins. You can buy them from any butcher. Oh, you can actually mould this using the moulds as well. So, and then all you do is you squeeze it, and then you hold the end. You squeeze it like this. I made about 60 of them yesterday, and I was broken man after that. So there you can see that's the sausage. So then all you do is you tie the ends, and then you poach those for at 80 degrees for about 6 to 8 minutes, and they're cooked. And then you take the skin off. So then all you're left with is the smooth puree inside. That one's got a little bit of texture in it, but so you can actually taste it. So, and that's pretty much how you make the sausages. So then with the finished product, Here's the sausage I just poached. So I'm poaching those in like a court bouillon, which is like a fish. It's like a white wine. It's like a vegetable stock with white wine through it, basically, or you can use fish stock as well. So then, and here I've got the. Can I borrow a bit of foam, please? So that's going nicely now. So all this is, it's a fish pump. You can get them in any pet shop. And that's a little pet, and it's got holes in it. So here we've got the cauliflower mash. And then here's the peeled sausage that I prepared a little earlier. I'll just get the, so in here we've got the foam. Has anyone tried the, has everyone like it?
Yes.
And there you go. There's the seafood sausage with pea foam and creamy cauliflower mash. And Peter's serving all the rest of those now. So there's a lot. So the first one, actually, I've got a friend in the audience, Jill. There's Jill. So this is for your mum. You come and get it after. So we know that a lot of people living with dementia. Put your hands up. Who's caring for people in their homes living with dementia? I mean, as in care home, you'll have people living with dementia. So, as we know, there's a lot of challenges when it comes to food and meal times for people living with dementia. So I think the commonest thing is, particularly in a larger dining room, is trying to make it as intimate as possible for the person. Cues are really important too, and prompts. So actually, if you have the time and someone's struggling eating, it's actually sit down in front of them and eat the same meal if you have the time, or and it's that prompt. And then they can understand what they might forget what picking up a fork or a knife is, or they forget how to actually use cutlery. So then that's where I suppose the easiest fix for somebody who's losing weight and finds it hard to eat. It could be as simple as they don't understand how to use cutlery anymore and they're a bit overwhelmed. So that's where finger food actually plays a huge vital part in the benefits of engaging the person at meal times and actually get nutrient in the person. So finger food is a really good solution, and it's not just party pies and sausage rolls. It's actually looking at what you serve every day in your homes and actually modifying that to actually make it suitable for finger food. So that's the reason we wrote the second book, because a lot of interest all over the world was about the finger food part of the first book. So we realised that there was actual niche there to actually support people at mealtime so they can actually have a dignified approach to meal. And so the next thing is that if they can't use the food or cookery, then somebody assist them. So they've lost that ability then. So then they just become a statistic where somebody actually has to help them eat whilst they can actually eat themselves. It actually works too very well for somebody who's actually finds it hard to sit down at meal times and can be quite active. It could be as easy as following a pattern of where they might go to their bedroom, so just leave some sandwiches on the sideboard there. And now with the 2-hour, 4-hour rule that most homes have, you actually can have food out, which is suitable for somebody, that won't go off, within the 2 hours. Just have to be mindful to put it away. So there's lots of good approach to food and the person living with dementia. So I've almost wrapped it up now for me, so I think there will be questions later. I suppose if there's any dementia-specific questions now that you want to ask, feel free to ask. If there's anything I can help with, or...
You're talking about visual cues for people like with dementia.
Yeah.
Does it have to be a physical presence, or can it be a video? On a TV screen rather than someone else. So at lunchtime, and you actually play.
Yeah, well, there's conjecture. So obviously, like a quiet. When you look at the sensors, we're looking at a quiet environment. So my talking now is about 60 decibels. So a simple thing is you can download apps on your mobile, on your phone. So you can get it's called a lux meter, which is to see if the lighting's adequate. You need about 300 lux for someone who's got molecular degeneration or an older eye. I'd say in here now is about 150 lux, or to 200 lux. There is a lot of natural lighting, but you also need down lighting as well. A lot of dining rooms for older people are very dark, so you've got to be mindful, can they actually see the food? Does the food look presentable? Yeah. Can they determine if it's like cauliflower? For instance, if I served that on a white plate, you wouldn't be able to see it, except for the green. So, is it visually appealing? So we actually look at our eyes that are appealing, and also sound, and then cues. So you'd want to have a quiet environment, So if you had a video on, it could be distraction, but it could be as simple as just engaging with someone, explaining what they're having for lunch. The communication, or it could be the cues of actually sitting down if you have the time to actually engage with someone at mealtime. I work for part of Home Care. We've got a thing called Dementia Services Australia, and I'm the SWAT team for any food-related issues. And it's usually, most of the time, is the person is overwhelmed, and they're showing. They can show anxiety at mealtimes, and it could be simple as not knowing what's going on, what they're having. It could be that they can't smell anything, or it could be simple as that. So it's all these cues are very important for food, even if it's as simple as explaining what the meal is, to somebody, and saying, "Oh, we're having roast chicken today, Mary. It's a lovely meal." Sit down with them and talk them through the meal. So as simple as that, breaking it down, and obviously not overwhelming a plate. It's easier to serve more food rather than have a plate, brimming with food. So it's a visual thing as well. Sorry, did that answer the question?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Hi, one of your previous presentations you mentioned something called a smell clock.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Well, in the UK, a lot of care homes in the UK have like a cook chill system, and I suppose if you have cook chill in your homes, you probably realise that there's no smell. It's a weird smell when food's cooked. When you open up the Burlodge trolley, it's got that sort of strange smell, and it's not associated with food. Because what happens when you cook food, when you smell it, you can hear it, smell it in the air. That's actually all the flavour molecules escaping out of food. So when you blast chill that and regenerate it, you lose that smell. So what happens there is, with cooked chill, it could be simple as sauteing off some onions in a little pan. You don't have to serve it. Or it could be a bread maker. They're great tools just to have something. So you're stimulating the smells. In the UK, they come up these little scent clocks. They squirt out harmony smells at mealtime just to get a person's appetite going, getting the saliva in the mouth and go, "Ooh, lunch is here." And it's an actual cue, so, and people with dementia, they might be able to speak, but they do know when they're hungry, and they probably a lot of them do know what a clock looks like and what the time is, and they sort of sense the theatre of lunch being organised or laying the tables, that there is something coming now, it is lunchtime. And they haven't got a lot to look forward to. The only thing they've got to look forward to is their meals. Now, they don't look forward to the medical trolleys. They don't look forward to personal care. But the other thing they've got to look forward to is the meals. So making it as I suppose a pleasurable journey as well with food.
Does anybody else have any questions? No? Are you happy?
Yeah.
You're happy? Has everybody had an opportunity to try?
Did everyone like the food?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Does anybody want to give some feedback on the food?
You never say that to the chef.
My mother tells me every day.
Hi. Some places have frozen meals. Do they have the same nutritional value as a home cooked meal?
Where's Sheree? Sheree, can you answer that?
This is one of our panel members, everybody. We haven't introduced formally, but she's going to answer.
Yeah, so certainly with the freezing process, it's not going to change the calorie or protein content of the meal. It can reduce, may reduce the appeal of the meal. It can, as with anything that's sort of extended the time, will reduce the vitamin C a little bit. But nutritionally, in terms of protein and calories, it's much the same.
Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah. I think technology's changed now. Things are snap frozen. So, my favourite frozen veg is peas. You can't beat a frozen pea. And that is frozen peas we use today. I think they're, and even freeze-dried peas I quite like too, you know, and so, I mean, there are some, you know, great things out there, and I suppose with a lot of people, you know, like when we do molecular slants on food, they say, oh, can you freeze it? So, I think Tash should be the person to answer that, but all I know is that if you're using like egg or things like that, the problem if you're using a puree and then you freeze that, if you're pureeing up a fruit and then freeze it, you actually do have water molecules when it comes down, so you do, you know, that could be a challenge, for particularly for speech pathologists, ticking the box that actually meet the needs of the person with you know, dysphagia. So some things can be frozen. This can't be frozen because it's all the water is separated from it. But there are ways of getting around that as well. So and there's some really good frozen. I actually tried one in Melbourne the other week. It's a really good. A company in Melbourne actually now makes frozen modified meals. You know, and they're really delicious. You know, I was actually quite amazed, and they came frozen. So there's a lot more awareness now with, you know, making modified meals taste good and look good as well. There was a survey by an Adelaide doctor, Sandra Ulrich, and she did a survey on modified meals and what the outcome was that. 80% of the outcome was that the person was actually caring for that person, whether it's assisting at mealtime or the family, can actually see that that food looks like a chicken, or the pumpkin looks like a pumpkin, and it doesn't look like carrot, rather than go, oh, would you like some of this, Betty? I don't know whether it's carrot or I don't know whether it's pumpkin. All I know is it's some sort of orangey thing. So that was the biggest thing, was actually that communication, that down the line people could actually communicate, but it's also a visual perception too. I've got these bowls, I won't mention the company, but I did sausage, we got a home in Caulfield, we did the sausage molds, and I served it to this lady and we showed her, and she goes, I'm not eating that, it looks like a turd. And I must admit, the sausage did look like a poo. So, you know, so it's like looking at how you're actually presenting the food as well is really important. The cues to the eyes, so yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Can we have a round of applause for Peter? Julie will explain later that we're bound to get onto bowel movements at some point in time. While we sit on our stools. Yeah, fantastic. Well, next up is going to be the panel discussion, but we are going to have a break. Can I just have a quick whip round? Does anybody have the issue of the car parking, where they do need to go and have time to move their cars? Because it will determine, okay. So we're going to have a 10-minute break. That'll give you the opportunity to get a water or a drink or go to the toilet or do that. But we will make sure everyone is back just because of that car parking issue, if that's okay with everybody in the room. All right, I will come back to you shortly. All right, well, this is the second part of today. Once again, we're at the Innovation and Changes Aged Care Food Forum, or Tasting Australia, and we have Mr. Tasting Australia in the room with us now. It's great to have him here. I'm going to introduce each of the panel members and ask them a question as we go. So it's going to take a little bit to go through the panel, but then as we get the ball rolling, I really hope that we're going to have some questions come from the floor, specifically really tough ones. I want to have a really tough afternoon with them. Make them squirm on their stools. That will do, yeah, that's good. All right, we've also got Annie. Just once again say thanks to Annie from the Maggie New Foundation. She's going to be walking around with her roving mic. So if I can't get to you, Annie will. So we'll make sure that everyone gets their questions heard. But the first person that we're going to introduce is yet again Peter Morgan-Jones, because you all know who he is and I don't have to repeat his bio. And we've had an inspirational cooking demonstration from him, and everybody, I believe, enjoyed the food and tasting the outcome from that, so that's awesome. But we might just kick you off and get you to offer the audience some quick tips and inspirations for the delivery of finger food, specifically in aged care. As we all know, and it was a discussion or a bunch of questions that came out during the cooking demonstration, that it is a particular topic of interest. How do we stimulate and get those people eating who are living with dementia? So Peter, would you like to kick us off?
I suppose it's like making every mouthful count. So looking at what you're actually serving and actually making putting protein in. So if you've got egg mayonnaise, grate some cheese in that as well, just to boost it up for a sandwich. All those little things that all add to the engagement of actually getting more protein into a person. And looking at your menu and not trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, most places serve great food, which you can actually adapt to turn into food. So you can have like a roast chicken breast, just chop it up so it's big enough to pick up with your fingers. If you've got an arthritic finger, usually around about this, like a cube size, so there's about 2 bites. So it means that somebody can eat it, and if they're on the go, they can actually have the other piece as well. We're trying to balance the food as well, making it not so overwhelming. Limit the amount of food on the plate, and then adding a little bit more rather than confusing a person with too much. And just keep it really simple. So, if you've got, it could be for breakfast. You can have like little sausages, roll up some bacon. So you can actually pick up the bacon. Hard-boiled egg, quarters, like some tomatoes, grilled mushrooms. So that's a finger food breakfast. Somebody can actually have a breakfast with using the fingers. So it's looking at everyday meals and adapting it for that person. It doesn't work for everyone, and the only way to get it to work really well is to actually talk to the stakeholders at your home. Obviously you've got to get the dietitian on board. The dietitians are usually the person to identify somebody who might identify to benefiting from finger food. Talk to the families too before you actually do it. And this is what we did with we had 4 ladies that were aging, they were losing weight quite significantly. And we talked to the families and said, look, your mum's going to be eating with her fingers. And that's that stigma, that Victorian stigma that we're not supposed to eat sandwich with our fingers, we're supposed to use a knife and fork. We're actually changing that persona now with the, like I suppose food now is like, fast food, we're actually using our fingers a lot more than we did 30, 40 years ago to eat. So it's cool to use your fingers. And it's cool for them. I actually heard one person at the care home in the UK go, but it's the risk, they can have germs on the fingers, but you just discreetly wash their hands, like when it comes to meal times. I mean, they've got these 2 wonderful things on each end of their arms that they can actually use to actually eat themselves. So if they don't use the fingers, the next thing is they have to be assisted. When it comes down to that path, it's usually a huge decline in weight loss because they're being assisted at meal times, and it's not a very dignified approach to eating. Next time you're at home with your loved ones, get somebody to feed you your meal with a spoon. It's quite confronting, so that's why it has got wonderful benefits.
Thank you. As you can probably tell, we're all going to have a passionate afternoon because Peter, I'm sure, could talk for hours. I'm going to do a quick naming along the line so that you all know who you're looking at, but then as we go back, we'll get more in depth from each of them. Dr. Alison Yaxley is to Peter's left. Then we've got Simon Bryant, obviously, which is Mr. Simon Bryant. Cherie Hugo from the Lantern Project. Luke Westenberg, who is the Aged Care Industry Association CEO, and you've all met Ellis. So that is our lineup for the panel this afternoon. Specifically Simon, I'll just introduce you now. Simon is Tasting Australia's Festival Director and remains a highly respected industry leader who is passionate about using menus to cast light on ethical issues surrounding food. Whether it be fair prices for producers, delivering more thoughtfully produced food, using best practice ingredients with minimal environmental impact, responsible and culturally appropriate use of Australian native foods, or the ethical treatment of animals in the food chain. Simon's a hands-on cook. We also heard him earlier in his native habitat. He has simple, pared-down, produce-driven, honest cooking that tastes better than just a bunch of words on a menu. It's really important today that we have practical outcomes, and this isn't just a words fest. It is actually something that you take back to your facilities and you implement, and you start to encourage others up the food chain, once again, to look at some of the practices and ways that things are going. So I wouldn't mind, Simon, without a doubt, You've been part of the history in raising awareness about food and cookery in the aged care scene. But when I was asked to MC and market today, I did a little bit of research and it brought back to me that 2014 YouTube video, and I watched it again where you said that aged care chefs probably have one of the hardest jobs in the industry, because you have to actually make a resident happy every single day. And that's a tough gig, and I know because I get lived-in experience from my mother, but top 3 complaints and compliments from the aged care industry is food. So you'll always get the best compliments, but you'll always get the biggest complaints. So, and that could be from the same person, just depends what day and what dish you put in front of them. So it's a really intriguing topic that we've got here. But Simon, I'd just like if you can give us a little bit of history behind your journey and the exciting things you've witnessed and any standouts for you. With your microphone.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just sort of thank Alice Wilkinson, I reckon I can't even remember how that all started, but he takes the ball and just runs with it, and there's a lot of people that are doing the same sort of thing, and Peter is the same. I'm sure you guys are all doing it, and quite often all of the groundwork's already sort of laid, and I think everything's sort of an eternal optimist after probably 4 p.m. and a pessimist before that. I'm not a morning person, but I think that we're all actually poised for a decent outcome now. Problems identified, everyone's sort of awareness growing, toolkits getting loaded. I know there's some real challenges to get those tools to turn the bolts and make things happen, but I really, really think we're in a good spot. Personally for me, it's not about aged care, it's all the same. It's just food, and it's food to different people in different ways, but if you want me to hijack, I can say what is exactly the same about what I do every day and what you guys do, and what you do in childcare and what you do as an airline hostie. It's about food and the experience, and what you just said about the complaints that, when I corporate chefed in a hotel, the food will be the complaint. It's not actually the problem. It's because the check-in was rough, the room is not great because it hasn't been renovated, and their plane isn't good, their flight over, and they're agitated, but it's the tangible thing you can point to and scream. So you're going to get a lot of, it's the culmination and the break point where they can say, I'm unhappy now. So quite often it's sifting through that backwards and working out what the real issue is. And it's a really funny thing for me as a chef to go out to a table, and after about 7 minutes of meta-questioning this guy about his scallop dish, it's actually because his marriage has just broken up. That's actually the problem. So I find it fascinating. It's people.
People are very human, and yes, they do complain. We'll send it out to the floor though if anybody has any specific questions they'd like to ask of Simon. My mother, she said to me, I don't know if you heard the intro, but she's been in an aged care facility now for 4 years, and one of her biggest complaints has been the food, the substandard, and it's probably typically because it's been dished up and it's frozen, and I would say the presentation of it hasn't been the best. I am an aged care health advocate, I'll just put that out there. I guess I work in the industry, but I have this other side to me as well. But in the last month, she said, it's suddenly changed and it's just made my day better. I don't have the stress around going to the lunchroom and not enjoying my meal. So that to her was massive importance, and I know we talk about the little things from the Lantern Project. We'll hear a bit more about that again. But it is really important. So you say it's the culmination of things that come into it, but it's also, if somebody's got a full belly and it feels good and it tasted great and it looked nice, it really does make their day.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't forget that your dinner table, for most Western cultures at the end of the day. So yeah, there's all different times when other cultures do their thing, but generally, if we're just saying, broadly speaking, is where you recharge, regroup, recenter, get equilibrium, get some positive feedback. Everyone's been biting you all day at work or whatever, and if it's in an aged care facility, maybe you're not getting along with other residents or whatever. So when you're a little kid and you get back from school and go out and play, and then you get to the dinner table, it's the time to refuel, regroup, recenter, recalibrate, get perspective. So it's a break point. It's, for me, my job, and I just wrote it down, is that we repair days in restaurants. What we do is we repair your day. You're stressed about your booking, you're unhappy that we're going to charge you $600 for stupid wine and fancy food. You don't really want to come because you've been invited by a corporate or your wife. It's Valentine's Day and most blokes don't want to be there. Our job is to repair your day. I'm not really in the food business. And what is on the plate, and you mentioned the frozen food, and just do that if I'm waffling, just tell me to hurry up. What's on the plate is
I'm never going to tell Simon to shut
that
up.
you can, but what is on the plate is not food. Yeah, it's protein and it's important and it's maximising all you can get in, but for me what's on the plate is some resonance of the blood, sweat and tears that a producer's put into growing the food, that I've put into maintaining a relationship with a producer, that my chefs have put into preparing it, the resilience they've shown when I belted them over the head and made them do it again and again and again. And then that plate of food, as opposed to the frozen plate, it's not a lot different maybe in nutrition. I heard that earlier before, but it's like an object that's had love put into it. So when a handmade knife is given to a chef, it's not much better than a factory knife from a German factory, but it resonates some real emotion. But what it also does is it makes you very confident as a server and the staff, and that's where I believe no pain, no gain. I know all of your budget issues. I know all of your food cost issues and your labour issues. But if I told you you have to lose €1 million a year to get a Michelin star, so €3 million a year to get a Michelin star, 3 stars, we're in the money losing game, so we just get creative with how we do that. We basically get a lawyer drunk and ask them to give us €1 million and somehow they say yes. But when you look at our...
Maybe I should wind him up.
Yeah, and end of the day, we're in a loss situation. You're saying, oh, you're getting $500 for dinner, but 40% of that's on labour, 40% it's on food, beverage costs. We lose money too. We're as tight as you on labour. And I know you think we're not, but that's why we work 16 hours a day. We get creative with how we do it. And it's about buy-in from our partners, our industry partners, our suppliers, the stagiaire system. A lot of people work in our kitchens as modern slave labour. We're all under the same sort of parameters, and that's why I find this industry absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
We also have the same challenge every day. We have to recalibrate, and before we start bitching and moaning about that box of food's underweight and we're understaffed, is to reassess what a guest is. Because if you're in the kitchen or you're pushing the medical trolley that you mentioned, you're so task focused, you've got your own pressures, but at the end of the day, it's about what is a guest, and the best definition that ever was given to me of what a guest is someone that you make feel comfortable, at ease, unintimidated, and happy in every possible way, and they leave your hands better than they came. And I think that we all forget that. So I always make my chefs remember it every day. You know, when they say blah, 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 I say, well, you're here for a guest. What's a guest?
In aged care, we say person-centred care. So we look at the person who's a human, and it's what I was saying earlier. I love the sound of chatter in the room because we're all social beings, and he was saying that the food table brings everybody back, and I think it's that connection that people have and the ability to have a conversation around the table, and more often than not, if they've got nothing else to talk about, they'll talk about their food. And they'll sit there and they go, oh, my peas are a bit sloppy today, or you know, this meat's a bit tough. And that's a conversation, but they'll have it. I'm going to throw to Dr. Alison Yaxley. Alison is an academic in nutrition and dietetics. I'm never going to be able to say that in my entire life, so we're just going to all forgive me now. Thank you. Okay. At Flinders University, and an accredited practicing dietitian, I can say that one, as well as the food service domain leader, teaching food service to student dietitians, including oversight of their professional practice placements in their final years. Much of Alison's research is conducted in the ageing space, and the reason I've thrown to her is a key area of interest being food service satisfaction. So engaging residents in a food discussion isn't hard. We all know it's one of the top 3 reasons for compliments and complaints. So do you, Dr. Alison Maxley, have any ideas you can share which will involve residents in the dining experience? Do you have any hints to improve any clinical outcomes even during that process?
In terms of clinical outcomes, we'll start with that one. We can't overstate the importance of nutrition to overall health, so it's really important that we maximise the nutrition that the residents take in. It's also flashing back to what Simon said about the way that the meals are considered and the guests are considered. The quality of life is really important too. So all in all, if someone is well nourished, their clinical outcomes will be improved anyway. So it's well known that malnutrition, which we know is a big problem in aged care, is linked to longer length of stay if they're hospitalised, poor wound healing, delayed recovery. So those sort of things, those clinical outcomes are easily correlated. There's a huge amount of evidence that shows that good nutrition leads to better clinical outcomes, and that should be the aim of the food service at the end of the day. With that said, if we want to maximise intake, then there are numerous ways that we can involve residents in the dining experience. And the dining experience shouldn't just be considered as that bit where they sit at the table. There's a whole lot of other activities around that. Some of the ideas I was going to give Peter's already stolen. But there are things like...
Tell us again.
Well, things... No, that's there's an endless list, and we could probably talk for hours, but some of the things that Peter talked about, like stimulating the smell, and talking about the food if you're actually feeding somebody, so the carers are talking.
I can actually give you one. My mother has a walker. Who hates walkers as much as I do? I hate the things. Anyway, my mother cannot ever get into the dining room because there is a catering shelf thing on one side, 10 walkers on another side, and a princess chair on the other side. So she struggles to actually enter the dining room. So that's her first challenge. So the residents, the impact on the residents is bigger than just the food. So that's a good point. Thank you.
It is. And you can involve them in things like if they want to be involved in the food preparation, they can peel potatoes, they can peel carrots. Even before that, having a small herb or vegetable garden.
Now, my understanding is there's industry regulations around that.
There are, but they don't have to actually, you don't have to feed those potatoes to, like potatoes are not expensive. If you're, doing little things, but there are also ways around it. If you're written into your food safety plan as the ways to deal with non-food staff handling food, then you just put it into the food safety plan how you're going to manage that. Because it's all about their risk management.
Write that tip down, everybody. That's a good one. Thank you.
So a herb or a vegetable garden, often things that residents miss is pottering around in the garden. So just having something that they can do that's engaging with the food that will end up on their plate, or that will appear to end up on their plate if you don't want to actually serve the stuff from the garden. Things like, and I've got a huge list. So most people probably speak with residents in the first few days when they come in, so to ascertain their likes and dislikes. Don't make that be the only time that you speak to them. So tastes change over time, particularly with ageing, so taste and smell changes. Making sure that you're keeping up with the changes with the residents so that you're maximising their experience. And ask them. So don't do a food service satisfaction questionnaire. It's quick, it's easy. And with a shameless plug, we're developing some toolkits for other stakeholders because satisfaction is not just about the resident experience. It's been shown that food service staff are often disempowered, and that can impact on food service staff in aged care, often disempowered, can impact on the quality of the food that is served, which in turn will impact the residents. So it's not always just about the residents. But anyway, just one more. do your surveys, but act on them. Don't just do them 6 monthly as a tick the box experience. You actually have to look at what the outcomes of the survey and see if you have the capacity to do anything about them. And involve them in groups where they can converse with the kitchen staff or with the food service staff, talking about recipes. Ask them when they come in if they have a favourite recipe which you may be able to add to the menu or use for a special occasion in the residence. There's a huge amount of low or no cost activities that you can do to improve the dining experience.
That's a very good point. And we're talking about aged care residents, but it's also an impact on staff and staff time, staff energy, staff enthusiasm, staff interest, staff who maybe just go in there to do their job, or staff who are so passionate and committed to providing a better outcome for the resident at the end of the day. So there's a two-edged sword. There's a really good outcome, or there's some extra burden on staff who are already stretched, who are already tired, and perhaps working within the budgets, and are out there screaming, saying, "How are you expecting me to do all this extra work and produce all these other outcomes when I actually have no more budget than what you're already talking?" So I think we need to start to go down the road of working smarter, looking at what we can do within the limitations of what we already have. And if we can prove some outcomes in that space, I think we're going to really hit the nail on the head. On that front, I'm actually going to throw to Luke Westenberg, CEO of the Aged Care Industry Association, because I know his passion is actually about the aged care workforce. He provides support to organisations to support high standards and long-term viability for the aged and ageing sector as a whole. Luke advocates for issues arising such as the aged care workforce issues. There's been a lot of chatter about that lately. And he's been instrumental in key aged care workforce policy directions for many years now. Of course, food has to get on the plate somehow. He used to be my boss, so I can pay him out enormously. Actually, still is my boss because of the magazine. You just throw to that one. That's my shameless plug again. This generally means, and Ellis is passionate about this, that we need specialised and experienced workforce who are trained in hospitality services. And it doesn't just mean chefs, it means people around them who are supporting them as well. So that I'm seeing heads in the audience going, yes, yes, yes. So are you able, Luke, to provide the audience with an industry snapshot, i.e. where its weaknesses perhaps may be at the moment, where we need to upskill? Els can interject at any stage if you would like to. And what you see on the horizon for someone wanting to get into aged care and specifically hospitality in this space. And I know Luke also would like to encourage a younger workforce, but there's also the older workforce that we need to be cognizant of. So basically a workforce for all, looking after all. So, Luke.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Phil Farnsworth here. Look, it's a very interesting area. The core of aged care is, of course, the workforce. It's about the people who provide the care, about the care that they can give. As we've discussed, there are significant budget pressures, and I think one of the key areas that I'm taking away thus far from today is actually the need to move aside from a task focus, which is always an easy thing to do in aged care. There's always more things to do, but actually take that step back and look at the outcomes. So, for example, with peeling potatoes and carrots, the task is to feed the person. If you peel the potatoes and carrots, it provides a charm, but if you have a momentary step back, you can see you don't have to feed them those ones. Been interesting. On the workforce more broadly, there has been a huge growth in the aged care workforce, reflecting the growth in aged care population recently. In the most recent survey that I saw, about 2/3 of the staff who provide services across the sector are not direct care staff, so a lot of those are hospitality staff. It's about 70,000 people nationally. So I think it's interesting when we're talking a cohort of 70,000 workers, there's a really big opportunity there, and also a really big challenge. We need to be ensuring these workers are appropriately skilled and trained, and we need to be replacing them all. The aged care workforce as a whole is a little older than the average Australian worker. So we have the interesting combination of an increasing aged population and the workforce that supports and services that population is growing older faster than the general population. We really need to be highlighting to people that aged care work is an attractive option. And this is both younger workers and also older workers. There is again the developing trend of multiple careers. I'm really interested to see all of these things, how they're going to play out. I know Ellis is very keen on highlighting that hospitality work and chefing in aged care is real chefing. I think there's a broader aged care industry challenge to ensure that people understand it's all real jobs that require a lot of skills. It's another thing with nursing as well. We're always keen to highlight that being a nurse in aged care uses a very broad range of skills. It's exactly the same issue working as a chef in aged care.
I could say something here, but it's probably going to answer the question you're going to ask me anyway, on my question. But one thing I've noticed is the care workers and nursing staff in aged care. I think what the industry needs to realise is that as soon as they pick up a plate or they're involved in the food service, they become a hospitality worker, and they're not. I think they're too focused. There's too much focus on them being care workers and nurses, which is obviously needs to be a focus on that. But as soon as they're involved in picking up a plate or serving a meal, they become a hospitality worker, and we need to make sure that they have the skills and the knowledge to be able to do that. And I think that's one thing we need to work on. Certainly, educating care workers when they do their qualification, I think there needs to be a hospitality focus in that training.
That's a very good point. I think of late the workforce discussions at a federal level have been focusing on clinical nurse ratios and those sorts of things, whereas
always. Even going back, I remember when I read
knew he'd take over at some point.
Living Longer, Living Better, when that came out.
2011.
Yeah, I read that, and there was nothing to do with hospitality at all.
So
and I was like, hang on, what's going on with that? Is hospitality, we don't do hospitality in aged care, all focused on the clinical side, that's not really like what Alison's saying, and I know that Cherie will be saying is that food services and hospitality services can be a real value add and can actually assist to reduce costs in clinical outcomes. And I think that's where we need to focus.
And I think that's one of the key messages from today. Food is actually a source of nourishment and can actually help make a person better. So why not focus on that aligned with your clinical care outcomes? I will throw to Cherie Hugo just so that we do have an understanding of your background, etc. In the room. So since completing a Masters of Nutrition and Dietetics, everyone together now. Thank you, because I can't say that. Cherie's goal has been to simplify the healthy eating message by providing practical and enjoyable nutrition strategies in the community. In the past 4 years, Cherie has founded the Lantern Project, a national collaboration designed to bring back the joy of good food in residential aged care facilities. And it's certainly a thing that went viral when I first became aware of Cherie and the Lantern Project, and all the rest of it was this video that was out on Vimeo, which was showing people, opening up a hidden plate of food which had been dished up in an aged care facility, and it certainly raised awareness in the community of the a solution that was needed, or the attention was needed to be brought to the subject. So that was fantastic. But and so thank you for the Lantern Project. It's definitely something that's out there, and just through the viral process of social media is helping out as well with the Little Things Project. And it's the little things that everybody does in aged care every single day that makes a person's life more enjoyable to live. So it's been a bit of a journey for you. You're now on the journey of research and workforce challenges and looking at all that with federal colleagues, etc. Could you give us a little bit more background as to what you're currently working on? Because I think you would be the better one to tell us than me.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's wonderful to be here, and thanks again, Alice, for inviting me along. Certainly the last 4 years has been a big challenge. So the research was never my world, but I got somehow lured into doing the PhD, which is now finished. So thank goodness for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So part of that has been a number of research studies which have all centred around demonstrating the value of nutrition, because as much as my focus is not around the dollar, I think it's the language that needed to be spoken to get the attention for, I guess, sort of change in the industry. And really demonstrating that we can spend, by spending more on food, and it's not so much just budget, it's looking at staffing around food and measures, training and improving that dining experience. We know that can lead to cost savings and potentially even revenue for aged care homes in terms of reduction in hospital readmissions, falls, medications, pressure areas that are very expensive. And so it's looking bigger picture to say, you know, overall we might have this bucket of funding that we're trying to, you know, sort of we don't have a lot to spend, but, you know, putting faith in food and that dining experience actually ends up cost saving homes and residents and results in happier residents, so it's really win-win all around.
It's really intriguing. So I don't know if you all remember that media article that went out where, she's cringing. You know I was going to raise $6 a day. Who spends $6 a day on food? I think that was my coffee this morning. Who else spends $6 a day? Anyway, we know it's not true across all aged care centres, so that is at least one good thing. But would you like to tease that one out a little bit for us, please?
Yes, it's good to have a forum to discuss really the premise behind that paper that we put out. So that actually was released last year and it got a second wind probably 2 months ago, and certainly I have a feeling it was someone.
Wasn't me, but may I say it really helped with event sales. Everyone wanted to talk about aged care food all of a sudden. It was fantastic.
Yeah, so the basis behind it, as much as it got some negative publicity, is really looking at providing a baseline. And I guess a bit of a background on that, I consult to aged care. I have for 20 years as a dietitian. And the thing I hear quite regularly in my travels, and it's nice to have chefs here in the room, is if I have chefs saying quite regularly, if the residents knew what I was, the budget that I had to prepare what I am preparing, they'd think I was amazing. You know, they would think I was amazing. And so it was really advocating that sort of first and foremost, it's advocating for you guys to say that, you know, you are doing amazing things, and I guess the messages that we try and promote with the Lantern Project is all around trying to spotlight, lanterns all around, shining a light all in all directions to say, look at these great things that are happening, and a lot of them are cost-neutral strategies. But that paper was just a baseline. It's a baseline paper so that in a few years' time we can look back and say, this is where we're going. It copped a lot of flack for comparisons that were made. So things like to the prison. So, and we know that it's a different demographic, but we were looking at other industries that provide 100% of the food supply. So in that setting, and looking at, you know, from a prison point of view, what, you know, the two main points when it comes to food budgets in the corrective services is, number one, it must meet base nutrition requirements. And number two, it must not waste taxpayers' funds. And so I was looking at that and saying, well, the budget is still a lot more than we spend in aged care. Yeah, there are quantities of scale, and there are reasons why we have a lower budget, and that's an average, as you pointed out. Lots of homes will spend much more, and some will also spend much less. But we know that there is a point, there's a tipping point, that when we reduce food so far, the budget so far, it does reduce quality, and that impacts on nutrition. And we still, in Australia, and it's been the case for 20 years, for me as a dietitian, we still have 1 in 2 aged care residents in Australia who are malnourished.
So let's just touch on that. How can we resolve that sort of thing. So we're working within our budget, but we're still having stats that show that our residents are not receiving the full nutrition that they need. And there's another question in there for me, personally. I've heard, and Simon, you might be able to chip in here as well, but I've heard that we use chemically enhanced food rather than organic type enhancers. And I know there was a question that came out from the audience during the break where, you know, if we want to dish up pumpkin so we can get the nutritional value of pumpkin, why don't we just dish up pumpkin? Why do we have to, you know, inject it with other stuff to bring the nutrition into it? So there's a raft of questions that anyone can unpack from the panel now from that.
Well, from our point of view, I know you guys can't go out and get some hokey, like free-range duck at $900 a kilo. I get it. And I am a realist. I've run all sorts of operations. But I will remind you that there isn't a single industry in the world that doesn't complain or have stress with their cost of production of raw material or humans. So it's nice to go up high and look at other industries that have worked out laterally how to address those challenges. It's not uniquely you, it's easy to stay down low. It's a scary number when you put the baseline out there, but so is Volkswagen's cost of production for a Polo. And so, yeah, they're in China. And the thing that I want to remind you is I said about, you know, the resonance that goes into a plate when you produce it from scratch. Yeah, I know you're not going to be skipping around mushroom foraging in the morning as a chef. You've got enough on your plate. But when you become the custodian of the food, no matter what form it's in, it's about reminding yourself as a human being that's going to get it and doing the best you can with that. So a frozen product or a food service product is not a bad product, always. I have to buy in kosher meals from Angus in Melbourne to serve kosher guests. So I'm mindful that I've got to, you're not allowed to touch them, you know, keep them, you're not allowed to unwrap the cutlery. We do it respectfully because I believe that that resonates in the meal. I didn't prepare the meal. And the same way that if you have to buy in product that you're not 100% happy with, yeah, we all do in every industry. But once you take ownership of it, if that's the very best you can do with that budget, then, you know, it's in your control now. As far as, and the best example of that is there's lots of cars that are rebadged. But once they get to the dealer, no one says, oh, look, we had to, you know, get this one because it's not really a Mercedes, it's just a whatever made in China. They stand behind their product and stand proud. But as far as nutritionally deprived food, well, it's a global thing, guys. We all know the quotes. You can't find food in a supermarket. It's not even in there. There's the 1% of the junk in a supermarket is food. And all your nutritional stats are lovely, but if you took a pumpkin from there and a pumpkin from there, all your carbs and vitamins are going to be incredibly different. So, you know, we've got the stats, we work with that. We know that factory farmed meat in particular, there's incredible variances in omega-3, 6, 9 in fat levels compared to a grass-fed cow. You've just got to shelf that. You just can't deal with it. You've got to work up steps. And I think when you've got an insurmountable problem, you have to break it down and you have to take steps. And the first step for me is not the nutritionally deprived food. It's everywhere. You're not going to fix that. That's a global agricultural problem since 1946, and most of it from the American government and globalization. So leave that one. Do the best with what you've actually got your hands on. You can only fight so many fights, and I think that's when it becomes overwhelming. But what you can do is not degrade the nutrition in that food any further. You know, that's an achievable goal.
It's a very good point, and I might just throw to Ellis. One of the questions that I keep getting asked when I'm out and about in the roadshow, and I know some friends at Elder Community ask this as well, how can we achieve a good meal service? And this goes to that, you know, we've got to get over things and just work with what we've got, but how can we achieve a good meal service when we don't have a chef on site full time? So this kind of goes back to this question where we're linking our frozen meals and our pre-prepareds, and we're moving it from A to B, but we're still expecting everybody to have a good outcome. So what do you do in that scenario?
Well, excuse me. Well, I think firstly that really the fundamentals is making sure that if it's the care workers, if it's catering assistants, that they have the skills and the equipment and the desire to be able to put that food on the plate or serve that food up correctly. Really, it's about if it's catering assistants, then they need to be skilled to be able to run a service. If you don't have a chef there, then you've got to have someone there that is able to take charge and run a service. You can't expect just a bunch of catering assistants or care workers that don't really have much experience to be able to run a service. So you've really got to make the decision within your business to be able to take that food service seriously and give them the skills and the equipment and the knowledge to be able to make it an effective service. That's really 101 stuff, and I know it's a really simple answer, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
The bottom line is keep staff trained up and get an understanding of what they know. So if we go, it's improving the bottom line, but we've also proven and we've spoken about clinical outcomes from food. So if we're talking about having staff trained and skilled in the space to improve the bottom, it'll improve the bottom line, but it also improves clinical outcomes, doesn't it?
It's resident satisfaction as well.
Resident satisfaction, which is a social.
There are so many different I guess, service methods, let's say. I mean, cook chill, cook frozen, cook fresh. But they all of them need their own. The fundamentals are the same. Is that if the food comes in, no matter how it comes to the service point, it needs to be plated correctly. It needs to be served correctly. And the resident needs to be engaged correctly, because essentially it is like Simon was saying before. And like I mentioned about care workers, and not having a development, but ultimately you need to have the customer service mentality as if you're working in a restaurant or working in a dining space when you're actually going to serve the food. You're serving food to a resident, and if you serve that incorrectly, don't plate it up correctly, and it doesn't look good or appealing on the plate, then it's all the hard work that's done in the kitchen is going to be undone.
It's so true, plating up of things. I mentioned earlier I'm on the board of Rembrandt Living, and one of the things I do at every board meeting is say that I would like to eat the food that the residents have had that day for their lunch. For our dinner, which we do, and I take a photo of it and I pop it up on LinkedIn, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, that looks amazing!" Like, wow, 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 and they love it. But then somebody complained about it and said it didn't look right. That's not how the residents like it plated up. So even at that level, it was quite interesting that our older generation, I'm not sure of the politically correct term of saying that, but anyway, our oldies. Like things plated up differently, so it is still that personal experience very much when you get back to that. So unless you've got any more burning things that you would like to get out there from the panel, I am going to throw it to the floor so they can tease. Sure, you're dying to say something. No?
I was just echoing Ellis's comments. Every home is so different. And the aged care, I guess, food and nutrition systems, so that dining experience, where it starts from paddock all the way through to sort of how it's transported, how it's presented, how it's then put on the plate, how it's given to the resident. Is the resident assisted with the meal? Do they have teeth to chew the meal? Is their mouth moist? Can they swallow? Can they digest? At any one point along that way, that can complicate and end in a poor outcome.
Yeah.
And really, I guess, it's acknowledging each home. It's really more a set of principles. I know that certainly the research and the outcomes with Lantern approaches looking at how that sort of translates in each different setting with each different food service will be different, but similar principles. It's all around empowering residents, training staff, making sure the mealtime is enjoyable, making sure that there's appropriate budget. All of those factors are important. It's fundamental principles, but it's interpreted differently each home, that it's complex, very complex.
Really good point.
Really the hope is that if we can actually, we can persuade and actually give evidence where we can, where an aged care home can actually really see that a good food service, and I know that Alison and Cherie can back this up, that if we have a good food service and the residents are well nourished, then the clinical outcomes are reduced. So which is, that's a big cost to aged care. And putting good food, nutritious food on the plate is way cheaper than it is to have clinical intervention. So really that's why when I said at the start that I think really aged care providers need to see food service as a value add to their business. That is a value add to an aged care business.
Not filling their bellies with prescription drugs, etc. I'm going to throw to the floor to see, and we'll start with the questions. If anybody has any specifically for the panel members, please ask away.
Hi, I have an interest in how food can reflect on someone with dementia and their behaviour, or more probably someone who doesn't have enough food and how that affects on their behaviour. We talk about clinical outcomes, but I see behavioural outcomes. Someone with dementia with an unmet need, they're hungry, they're hypoglycemic, and you're in an institution where they have a low-fat, low-calorie diet. Can you perhaps make a comment on that, please?
Someone with a degree, please.
It certainly can increase agitation. It's one of those things. It's a sign. It's one of the behaviours that can present if someone is hungry. We did a great workshop down at Dietitians Association, and there's a great speaker, Nairi Hobbins, who's a dietitian but also focused on dementia, and she had some great practical strategies, and she publishes books with those strategies. But it's sometimes it's making food available, finger foods, making sure that they're in a way that is visually appealing and is able to be consumed, but in enough quantity. And of an evening, I guess a lot of the time, again, that can come back to budget and staffing, is we have the meal times generally around 5 at night, and then we've got breakfast maybe around 8. And those behaviours, although it's not whether we call them behaviours, sometimes it can come down to food.
Can you make a comment, please, on whether food should be low fat or low calorie for people with dementia? Because it's still a huge issue in the place where I work, where there's healthy food, giving diet jelly to people who are agitated.
I'm looking on the dietitian to go.
Please, tell me what you think about that.
It's absolutely. I guess we typically in the past, and it's been something that we've challenged with the Land Project over the last 5 years, is I guess the guidelines that have been pre-existing and are referred, dietitians when they do menu assessments in the past, they may refer back to sort of the Australian dietary guidelines, which are not relevant really for our older population. So there's a great tool. We've got lucky to have Anne Schneider in the audience, who's developed a menu audit tool that looks around that, but it is, the consensus pretty much now is for the elderly population it isn't low fat. It's looking at how often we've got poor appetites, we're dealing with how in smaller quantities can we get more nourishment, and so that's one of those tools. Proteins another.
Can I just say something to you? It's also a bit detective work when it comes to a person living with dementia at mealtimes and agitation. I'll give you an example. We had one lady in one of our cottages, and she was throwing the food at all the carers, smearing it all over the table at lunchtimes, wouldn't sit down. and they were really concerned chanting for 2 days. And it was as simple as just going in and, a bit of observation and, I suppose like common sense. So I actually went in there and she had a therapy doll. She's standing there with one of those therapy dolls. Everyone else was eating and she's standing up there. So I went and made some high protein milkshakes, made 2 of them. I went up to her and I found her name was Anne. She said, Anne, I'm just going to put the baby to bed now. It's really tired. And she looked a little bit anxious. I took the baby away from her and I threw it around the corner where she couldn't see. And I sat her down and I put a drink in her I put a drink in her hands and I sat down in front of her and I drank and I put her hands on the drink and she mimicked it. And she actually drank 2 glasses. And the reason was the bloody doll's eyes were open, they were broken. So I never went to sleep. So she was stressed because she was a mum and she couldn't have time to eat. And it's simple little things like that. There was a gentleman who wouldn't eat at all and he'd throw the food. Found out he was a farmer. So we gave him a packed lunch and he went underneath the tree outside and ate it. So it's just little things like that can actually be a win-win situation to change a person's perception. Living with dementia at middle time, just get to know the history of all their preferences and likes as well.
That's up to all staff. So it's looking out for those cues and sort of communicating and connecting with catering staff, with the clinical staff that are picking up, working as a team, we're all eyes to look for opportunities to improve food.
I think it comes down to that person-centred care. There's all sorts of areas of aged care as well. But knowing a little bit about the person, taking a little bit of time, and often suggest solutions that aren't necessarily difficult, but they can lead to big improvements. Certainly a lot of the dementia management stories I've heard are very similar. A little bit of observation from an outside person who's not focused on the task at hand can make a difference.
I think it's going to present a conundrum. Obviously we're moving towards consumer-directed care. I've been sitting with the quality standards in developing the guidelines, so nutrition, hydration, and it's something that's come up particularly the last 2 weeks is, homes that are innovating and putting some great strategies in place that are more in response to what residents, consumers are wanting, requesting, and then being judged obviously on previous frameworks in terms of food safety, and it's I don't have the answers, we don't have the answers, and how do we get assessors, auditors, quality standards people, health department?
I think it also ties into the funding model. When you tie funding to specific practices, you incentivise those practices. So if you have a specific response to an issue, for example, if you have a medication supplement for address behaviours, then you create, the first look is to have a medication-driven response. If you have a non-medication-driven response that takes away the behaviour, it actually can reduce the funding. So I think we also need to think through the funding model.
Yeah, 110% need to link food services with funding in aged care. Otherwise, it's going to be a hard ask, I guess.
I do believe we're moving in that direction. It's
we
not
chip
fast
it away.
enough.
We chip it away.
Simon?
Look, it's really interesting. We have exactly the same problems. Most kitchens on the top 50 world's best or Michelin system, we're breaking every rule in the food handbook. Someone has to break the terrain first, and you have to do it in a way that mitigates your risk, and there is a way to do that, and you push forward very slowly, you stick your head up like a meerkat, wait for it to be shot off, and have your rationale clear. I know you're all terrified, and we live in a world where everyone's so bloody terrified to do anything now that will have a great outcome if it's got any legal or legislative or liability risks. We've got to move through this. In 5 years' time, we'll look back at planet Earth where everyone was hooked into social media and data stuff, what everyone else thought, and actually read a newspaper printed by Murdoch and cared what the opinion was. You all think it's a Watergate moment when you get some press. It's not. There's so much noise going on now. It is to you and your organisation. Someone has to push the boundary. In my industry, we're not allowed to do this, this and this, so some chef gets all of his paperwork in order, presents it to environmental health, gets slapped on the face for it, does it again, does it again, does it again. Nothing would change without people pushing boundaries and taking risks. You have to mitigate those, I know, but they're all the same issues we have. And this is where I think the two industries are fascinating. The things that, Peter was explaining about service issues with dementia clients. Have you ever had a CEO that's share price has plummeted 50% come into your restaurant? It's the same. Seriously, guys. The human behaviours are very, very similar. And you need not just chefs from the hospitality industry merging across and learning from you guys and us, helping you guys. You need maitre d's. They're childcare workers. You talked about taking the care doll away. Most CEOs are sociopath type A, and if their personal assistant isn't with them, if I film that and film Mary, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But maitre d's, good maitre d's, their job is again to assess a problem and slide through the quadrants of what the priorities are in your organisation of cost and resource scarcity versus a satisfaction outcome on that particular incident, and they're experts at it, absolute experts, to the point where they'll open a bottle of Hill of Grace worth $800 just to appease that person, which is what you pretty well did. So the similarities are absolutely endless.
It's a really interesting thing. We were talking before about the word normalising, and what you're explaining is actually saying you're just, people in aged care are just people who have similar problems, similar outcomes, etc. And we just need to normalise and go back to how people live their life.
What I'd like to stress is that our industry, when you talked about how do we fix those issues with auditing or whatever, self-auditing, we've gone through it or use this as a resource. There's a lady called Maggie Beer that had to do a lot of that because what she wanted to do with a packaged food, a commercial food, wasn't going to fit into the box that someone had laid down, and we all do it every day. So I think it's like, we're aged care, we're dealing with very different issues with dementia and whatever. Well, yeah, they're the same issues. Just because society has decided to outsource the care of its elders and to hide anyone with inappropriate behaviours we deem inappropriate, and please don't misquote me on that one, I'm not saying they're inappropriate behaviours. The world no longer knows how to accept people that don't fit into the 10 kilometres of CBD behaviour. So most of your staff that are coming in have never even met anyone with that degree of dementia, because we hide people away and farm them off. But and that's a bit brutal for me to say that, but most people would already have those life skills of how to deal with that. My staff should have those life skills in a restaurant, because we should have dealt with all sorts of people. So I'm just saying that a lot of industries have already attacked or tried to rectify the same issues you're having.
I've got a question. Firstly, I'd like to say to the organisers of this event how fantastic it is to have so many like-minded people in the room. Secondly, I'd like to say I've worked in the industry for almost 3 decades, showing my age here. But we talk a lot about skills and knowledge of the key providers of food in the industry. And we all talk about cooks and how hard it is to attract chefs. And we talk about the care staff that are often performing a lot of the main functions of our meal service. I also know the government's put a lot of effort and resources into the training and programming for the aged care workers in dementia, because we recognise that there's escalation in our population of people suffering with dementia. And I'll put it to the panel, do you see any future changes in the way the government funds the training for our cooks and our staff in general, so that we do get better outcomes? I know that certainly I've struggled to find good training for my staff. Certificate 3 in cookery really doesn't cut the mustard. I did
more recently find some training providers through TAFE that was fantastic, but it was really hard to find good training.
Yeah, that TAFE course, that was a project that we ran. That was 5 years ago. That was born with that discussion with Trevor, who is at here now. Trevor Cook at the back of the room, and Simon and myself. And that was we worked with TAFE it took us 2.5 years to get to a point where we had something that we could present to them, and then that was put out to market. But that, I guess that's a single course that's not accredited. I guess that's why I've been a dog with a bone. I won't let it go. With the nationally accredited course, it needs to be in place for aged care cookery. We need to have some curriculum in place that's going to give the chefs and cooks the skills they need to come into aged care, because this industry is changing, and we need to be able to service that, and we need to be able to service it in the way that the industry is expecting it to.
This is perfect timing for my comments and questions. I come from the training sector, so we train the individual staff for individual support, which is the entry-level care position for aged carers still in the home community. And we are training over and above the training package that exists to industry's expectations, but we have identified these gaps within the industry that have been around for a long time. We're actually working with a provider at the moment, and we're putting together a program which is specifically around food service, how we do that. We're focusing on all the aged care philosophies and ethoses that we need to ensure that the carers understand, so independence, active aging, how they actively participate in their own meal service. Trying to move their carers away from a task-orientated shift, but more focused on how can we support those carers to actually build a collaborative relationship with their residents, so they are more independent and are actively living. There is a lot of issues around the training that we do provide the people that are coming into the space, because the training packages themselves aren't correct and they're not right. And we're constantly working with our package providers to try and have that change. But we cannot do that without industry, and it's really important that industry gets vocal about what they need and what it is that they need to actually happen on the floor in their facilities. We can yell and scream about it all we like, but unless we have industry behind us going, they are correct, they are right, this is what we need, this is what needs to happen, it's not going to change. I'm working with a number of providers to try and get them to have a bigger voice. I'm inviting them along to all of the stakeholder events that are happening, both with state government and the federal government as well, to make sure these changes can happen. But we need industry to have a bigger voice about it. If we can demonstrate to the governments, particularly the state government, that there is a massive need in this sector for these particular skills, we can organise funding, because they'll identify the fact that it needs to happen, because if we're upskilling people in the industry, it opens up more jobs underneath those people as well. And we can actually source funding for that to support employees to upskill their staff, but we need the industry to be more local.
Yeah, sorry. One good thing about the Liberal government coming into South Australia, I hear that they're going to be forming the industry skills committees again, which is good. So hopefully we can, some of us can get on those committees and actually be vocal about aged care. I certainly, that's where I met. So I think you guys was at an industry forum that people were asking me what I was doing there, because I was from hospitality, and it was certainly they were all clinical based or that. And there's a few events I went to that there were people scratching their head, why are you here talking about food service? And I said, well, that's because we do that in aged care, and we have workforce associated with it, so that's why I'm here. So look, the good thing I think with industry bodies certainly, and we're really happy that Luke's here, but just not that I want to mention the other two, but I'm going to anyway. But it's good to see that people like Cherie and Peter, they're on the national circuit. and LASA, whatever you want to call it, and the other one, AXA. They're having inviting people like Cherie and Peter to be involved in their industry events. So that's good that we've got food services traditionally in a care-focused environment. So, and that's 100% what we want to do today, is join the two together, because we need to be together to move forward.
Food is on the table for aged care.
Just collaborating. And certainly whether it be with industry bodies to access that knowledge and industry insight, or, certainly Lantern's just an example of, I think there's over 550. We've got connections to just join in. It's free, and webinar in, it's an ability, it's a brain trust pretty much, it's tapping in, putting things out there and getting feedback.
I think the industry is certainly turning on with this anyway. Have we got any more questions? Anybody would like to ask the panel anything? Okay. I'd like to thank you all for your contribution. I think I'm the same school over this side, so I'm going to walk back over here in the comfort zone. Oh, it sounds better, really. Alright, so thank you, Peter Morgan-Jones, Dr. Alison Yaxley, Simon Bryant, Cherie Lugo, Lou Westenberg, Ellis Wilkinson. Put your hands together, please. Thank you. We are going to take another short quick break, and then we're coming back with another cooking demonstration with British, which will be molecular gastronomy. Anyway, lots of fun. I almost said that one right. Take a 10-minute break, thanks guys. We're going to start handing out a little treat, and everybody's going to get a little treat. But you're not allowed to touch the little treat. You're not allowed to eat it. You're only allowed to hold it. No green finger. Everyone can help hand out. Nobody's allowed to put it in your mouth. Which has a little bit of a surprise for you. There's a gentleman over there. H for him. Smile. We're going to keep going. So I am just going to do my day job now. Finish the doors. How are we going? We're all settled? So Vidish works for improving food in aged care. I think that's the reason we're all here today. But he in particular uses molecular gastronomy techniques. He was awarded the Best Practice Commendation Award in 2017 by the Australian Aged Care Quality Agency and Innovation in Service Award by AXA. Congratulations, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that would deserve some kind of applause. People winning awards, we like that. He is, however, currently the Hotel Services Manager for Uniting SA, I believe down at Port Adelaide Way, and is working with DuPont's innovation team to develop innovative food solutions for the aged care industry. That's what we're all about. So today he'll be demonstrating and providing practical tips for us. And as I said before, you've all been given a little bit of a treat, but please wait until Vidish lets you eat it. And that will be over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for staying back. I don't know why every time they put me off to present, either they don't want anyone to attend or they want to hold everyone back. So probably to hold everyone back today, which is great. Now, in your book, CCI, you have a one-page double-sided. So if you can follow this with me, that would be great. I call this the journey. The presentation today is about the journey. It's not about me, I, and myself. It's a journey. There's so many people involved in that journey. Innovation, I believe, there's three things important to innovation to happen. Collaboration, collaboration, and collaboration. And when I say collaboration, it's real collaboration. It's very important. So to demonstrate that, today I have Nathan Freeman, who is a chef and food technologist. And I have Quen Trent, and Quen is from Andre Cucina and Polenta Bar. Now Andre was supposed to be here, but because of his mobilization of second restaurant, he can't be here. So he sent Frank, who is an apprentice chef. Now, I believe you're all passionate about aged care. I'm passionate as well, but I'm here because of this. I met a lady 4 years ago that was ill by mouse for 7 years, and that changed my life. We live to eat, someone can't eat to live. And I want you, if you're passionate, you have to try this. Some privileged people. Because random. You need to be privileged to have that. If you have probably have tried that, you want to try it. Palliative care. 3 times a day, 4 times a day. Whenever you have tried it out. You love it? So I guess. Could you pass it on, please? Can you put it in your mouth, please? Please. That's what we have. 3 times, 4 times a day. When I had mine, I couldn't eat for a few days. And that's where my journey started. Okay? Now, to put you in the real situation, with a marshmallow, you need to have the sense of dysphagia. So, if you put the marshmallow in your mouth, don't move your tongue and try to just open the lid and close. No tongue movement. Anyone have it? Careful, don't choke. You can eat safely now, move your tongue. Now, I'm not an expert, but what I was told by the expert, your tongue produces saliva, and saliva actually makes the mechanism work. Between your brain and here, there's 23, I think, muscle or nerves. I don't know. When I was asked the question, I said 200. But there's 23. Is it all right, Joe? Was it 23? 25, sorry. Still not getting it right. All right, so what we'll do today is, when I spoke to Andre, I asked Andre, what is your best dessert? So his best dessert, selling dessert, was a polenta cake, pistachio, and semifreddo. Okay? So which, Juan, can you present the plate, please? So when we went to the restaurant, that's what we were presented with. Can you see that over there? Or you need to come here? Probably, or whatever. Yeah. Okay, so you can see a meringue, and the meringue has been torched. So now he's putting the cake and the semifreddo. So basically the cake is a cake like this, which is a pistachio and polenta cake. And then in the middle there's a semifreddo. Now, apologies from Klein, because normally there is a gelato. Yeah, the gelato need a machine, and it's frozen. You need an ice cream machine so that you can put it. So you could not organize that, but it's still a very good looking dish. Alice told me I can have 10 extra minutes because the panel took 20 minutes extra. Okay, so that was a plate that was presented to us. Then me and Nathan, we went and tried this at the restaurant. So when we look at it, this is hard, it's not stable. This is fine, it was stable. Then we went on, this have raw eggs, this got raw eggs, there's a food safety part of it, pistachio being expensive. So there's all these challenges that start coming, especially with raw eggs. Now, regardless of what we say about, food safety, my belief personally, despite being very passionate about trying to get everyone the right food, we still need to respect food safety because you don't want to try to do something and then be a problem. And you want to provide the resident with a safe food first. And so we actually then redesigned the food. So we gave a brief overview about molecular gastronomy. If you just focus on the key point. Molecular gastronomy is a transformation of ingredients that occur during cooking. Okay? Now, it might sound, oh my God, molecular gastronomy. I think if chef doesn't drive molecular gastronomy, it's the science and the food technologies. So Nathan being a scientist has been very helpful for me. Both of them are not from aged care, and in 2 days they've learned a lot about aged care to the point they took me off from the kitchen, and they will take over as a presenter, which is good for me because I can talk. So with the redesign of these dessert today, we will look at cost, food safety, nutrition, because it's not about nutrition being on the plate, but it's about enjoyment as well. So we will try to tackle that in our presentation. So now Nathan will go through the reconstruction of this dish. So what we did, then me and Nathan, we had a discussion and said, well, okay, burger, if it's too expensive, it's tasting Australia. Let's do two. We'll do a pistachio cake and we will also do an almond milk cake using polenta exactly the same. So when it comes, sorry about that, to be honest, I was cooking at the aged care site yesterday. Believe me or not, one resident patient is from that. So that's the pistachio cake and that's the almond milk cake, okay? So what Nathan is doing is reconstructing the pistachio cake. Now, there's lots of talk about powder. Now, I use my own powder. I don't buy anything. And how I do that? Through collaboration. I get the scientists to design that for me. Okay? So believe me or not, a full jar of this powder is about $10 and it's made in Australia. And so in June, when we'll do the workshop with IHHC, we'll actually focus on the powder. To be honest, in a 1 or 2 days crash course, you should be able to use this powder without following any book because you just need to understand the science behind the powder. I don't have time to go through the powder today, but that will be in June. So today, we wanted to be boring, so we use the agar powder. So, but there's other option which we will explore in June. So for this to be successful, you need to put solid and fluid together. You need to warm it up, and then you add your powder, and then that's how it's triggered the gelling, and that's how the gelling happens. Okay, so it's not that difficult. You just need to understand the science behind that. So once you blend that, you use a saucepan. And then you pour it, look, that's the other thing. You don't need sophisticated mold. It was very interesting because we were thinking how to present that. At Andre's restaurant, they use this to make the dessert. So they lay the cake the semi-Fredo on top of that cake. Then we said, well, how will we present it here and then cut it? So I bought one of these, what's called a cheddar chips. Is it correct? Yeah. $1 that $1. And Dayton bought 5. And we didn't communicate, so we sing aloud, which is good. So we got the best result. Now, like he's doing, I would just, for tasting purpose, you can also use it for finger food. And this curd, lemon curd, is actually cooked egg. And this was given to me by a resident about 2 or 3 years ago, I think. You don't need to be too sophisticated. I like food like this as well. So you can you try a little bit and tell me what you think about it? How's the is it all like it? Is it on one? Is it
Very nice. Very nice.
don't make it judge, just to say, oh, Peter is a special. She was good. He would be very critical. So what I want to demonstrate here, you can still use existing recipe. You don't need to be too much on overboard. So this, I like this curd, you know what I mean? My kids like it. So, very simple, lots of ways. In fact, that's how I won the better practice last year. Now, since David is doing that, a quick question, who is not a dietitian? I won't ask Peter. You. Yes. What's your name? Jenny. Morning and afternoon tea. Then you have stuff. Do you know how much food a meal it should have in total?
As much as you need, it should be highly individualized.
I was told 500 kilojoules.
Let's think about it now, it might be about 500
But you answered perfectly because the 500 is a benchmark. You are not what you should know probably. What is a benchmark? And then you got a benchmark, go over 500. You know? So that's the best way to do that. Well, talking about collaboration, this project about finger foods that I worked on, mid-meal snack, wouldn't have been successful without the dietitian, without the powder, and without the staff. So that's how you get everyone involved. You know what I mean? And it costs almost $0 doing that. It's just a bit of passion. So then the semi-Fredo, we actually use the same recipe that the restaurant had, but we actually cooked it. So we cooked the egg, so we can keep the food safety part of it. So we fine-tune it a little bit. We just use lemon curd and cream. So you have that. So you have that ratio, and then you heat it up, and then you put egg up. Okay. Now, reason why I will tell you today why some people use agar is because agar is probably one of the unique stabilizer that like every type of food, whether it's acidic, sweet, salty, or whatever. You'd say it is like the Superman, Superwoman of jelly, it's French. But you have other options. Okay? So again, you go through the blending, and then you reheat, you add your powder, and then you will put the layer. So why is doing that? The other, in reception, many other chefs have been very innovative in their own right, and they call molecular gastronomy as multi-sensory cooking, because what you try, it's multi-sensory. So it's not just fluff. Whether it's carrot, potato, it's all the same consistency. So that's the multi-sensory, the sense you get from different layers, different types of food. Modernist cuisine, so these guys were there at the posh restaurant use the word modernist cuisine. But to be honest, if someone wants my opinion, science-based cooking is about science. You know, making lots of years of chef, making mayonnaise is a science because it's a stable sauce. And making vinaigrette is it's not a stable sauce. So you learn it from a very early stage. So many things we do in life, at home and all, it's science-based cooking. You know, many people boil green veg and they buy soda on that. How many of you do that? No one? Some people do to keep it green. Apparently there's science behind that. You know, Mike, about that? You need to put your hand up. You're shy. I was surprised no one knew about that. Come on.
I know about it, I just don't do it.
Okay, so are you about that? You're not stressed? This guy has been stressed from a week now. So I'm trying to make it easy for him. So yeah, so we create a layer. Talking about costs, you don't need to use this type of cake. You can use a normal sponge cake, which is a cheaper version. You know what I mean? In fact, you can use any cake you want, but as far as you can texture modify and puree properly, it's fine. You know what I mean? So you can do the same principle apply across all the cake. Put it that way. Okay? So you need to be creative. Think about alternative stuff. You want to do a pizza? You can do it. You can use polenta to do your base, texture modify. You know what I mean? So it's understanding how you do that. You can have some failure, but you need to put your heart and passion into that. And it's not hard. It's not difficult. It's quite easy. So once you get all your ingredients, it's quite an easy task to do. And you can, you know, talking about food safety, you can do a different approach. You can start getting your food being tested, so you know how long is the shelf life. You can work with other parties and find out when you use agar or any other stabilizer in the food, how long can you put it in the fridge for? You know what I mean? So this can be done the day before and used the next day if you follow all the steps. Okay, so you need to be creative. So when I did the project about, I call it MG, it's easier. So we cooked the day before and we served the next day. Okay, the food. So also, I don't know, I didn't listen to everyone, but there's a high demand of savory product in terms of texture modified. Especially for millennials now. Okay, so during the research that we did previously, 2 years ago, we actually had a balance of savory and sweet, and it was interesting to see how people actually ate the savory more than the sweet. So that shows you that they are fed up of the sweet stuff. Okay, since Nathan is taking longer than we should be, I will quickly jump into another subject, which is supplement. Okay? When you use this technique, you can actually add your supplement. Okay? But if you get your dietitian involved in the process, I spoke to street dietitians. They don't know who the chef is. The chef have never met the dietitian. Does it cost money to do that? It just costs a bit of change of your process, isn't it? This is through observation. I work every day, 5 days a week, in different aged care sites, so I can see what goes on. So sometimes we need to assess how we are running the operation at the moment. There's lots of things can be done by just changing few process and changing few system, by engaging better collaboration internally and with dietitian, with speechy, and you can achieve some sort of result as well. So you can do that. I can't see why not. Now you can, if you ask me, if you have a question of how you do that, I'm happy to have a cup of coffee with you. If you pay it for me, I will be free for an hour and explain how you can do that. Now, so we're coming back with supplement. So, like I said, you can add skim milk powder, you can add all the natural supplement, because food first approach. I don't know, Sheree, did we talk about food first approach at any stage? No? Okay. Food first approach is actually I learned it from Sheree before research. It's a good terminology. Food first approach. Stop itself. I'll tell you a real story. I was at one site. I won't say which year and what. There was a lady. She had a falsified load shedding in front of her and about 5 different grades. I asked the question why. They say,